5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Liftoff of mission 41D, the first flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Welcome to D2M, ladies and gentlemen, the show of the hour. I would like to welcome everybody who is listening, and especially those who have checked out the previous episodes here on D2M. I'm glad you're back. Now, if you're new, and this is the first time you're hearing my voice, then I would like to ask you to check out the previous episodes of D2M, because those will get you up to speed and give you a better idea of what this channel is about and what the main idea here is and what we are talking about. Now, if you're not new, then you would know that normally I have a co-host, but today Gus is not here for a reason, and that is because we are launching a new segment here on D2M, which is called D2M Side Project. Now, the main idea behind this new series is that both of us are going to show you what each of our music production process looks like. So what we are going to do is, through several videos, we are going to explain how do we make a track and what we are doing and why we are doing it, the way are we doing it. So if you're down to it, then let's switch over to the screen and let's get down to business. Alright everybody, so now that we are here down at the screen, you can see what the GarageBand software looks like. For this series, I'm going to assume that you have most of you have used GarageBand before, but for those of you who didn't, here's a brief overview. As I told you in the intro, I'm going to show you what my personal music production process looks like, and we are going to make a track through this series. In today's episode, I'm going to briefly show you how I create the foundation of the track, and then in future episodes I'm going to show you how to fill that up to be interesting enough to listen to. First of all, we are going to go to the plus sign, and this gives us a few opportunities. As you see, we have strings, we have bass, guitar, world, drummer, external, sound library, keyboards, drums, amps, audio recorder. These are all the options that we have at the moment, and they are all good for certain tasks. Audio recorder, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's for recording audio, mostly lead vocals or background vocals, but as you can see, we can also record instruments with a external microphone. Strings, this is where you can record your string section. The bass, you can record bass guitars and bass instruments. Guitar is for guitar recording. World section is where you have some other nations' native instruments to make your track a little bit more interesting. Drummer is where you can work with actual virtual drummers. I'm going to show you what that means in a little bit. External is basically third-party instrument recording into the song through certain adapters. So if I want to record a keyboard through a certain so if I want to record a keyboard but I don't want it to be the virtual keyboard but a third-party instrument, I could do it through the external part. Sound library is where you can access certain loops, which I use a lot because as I told you in previous D2M episodes, it's what I use mostly. And keyboard section is where actually I record most of my stuff, and because it gives me an awful lot of versatility in terms of recording. I'll show you in a minute what that means. And drums, obviously, that's where you record your drums loops, either with acoustic drums, a beat sequencer, or some spot drums, which I can show you in future episodes what that means also. Amp is where you would record guitars mostly, or bass guitars, and we are back to the audio section. So that's basically our main options. First we are going to go to keyboard, and that will bring us to the main section of the software. This is where you can add tracks, subtract tracks, and manipulate the tracks as you wish. While I'm recording and while I'm composing, there are some terminology that I'm going to use. Mainly it's bars, beats, and phrases, or beats, bars, and phrases. I'm going to show you what those mean. I assume you know what a bar and a beat means, so not much explaining needs to be done there, but what a phrase is, I'm going to show you in a minute. As you can see in the default setting, we have 8 bars of space, and I'm going to actually go to the song section, and I'm going to go to 100 bars because that will give it enough space to me to play with. Sometimes my tracks are around 100 or lower, so that I can add or subtract space as I need to. First of all, I'm going to show you the settings section is where you can set the basic parameters of the track. First of all, tempo is where you set the tempo of your track. By default it's 110 BPMs, or beats per minute. This is what I use, or if I want to do it a little bit faster, then the highest I usually go is 120 or 130, because that gives you a faster rock and roll type speed, a really faster track. The lowest I have been so far, and usually I go because it's still not too slow, it's not boring when you're listening to, is 85 or 80 BPMs, but now we are going to stick with 110 to be fair. As well as you could set the time signature, we are going to work with the 4/4 because that's the most common time signature. Also, you could set the key of your track. Obviously the scales and the notes that will appear in the instrument section are going to depend on what key you are composing in. You can either set major or minor scales depending on how you wish to compose it. We're going to go with major, C major key. The fade out, you can turn that on or off to fade in or out your track at the end, and you have some other options like Notepad, where you can sort of note down stuff about your track and so on. So that's basically the settings section. So we have 100 bars of space. The first thing I'm going to do is turn the metronome off. I know it might seem a little weird that I'm actually turning the metronome off, but when I'm composing I usually count the tempo in my head. Just because I turned the metronome off, the only thing that does, I don't hear the metronome physically during the recording process, but it still gives me the count in the 1, 2, 3, 4 pre-count before it actually starts recording the track, so that I know when to start. At the moment we are a warm synth pad on the first instrument, but I'm going to change that to a classical grand piano, just to be So I'm going to go to the keyboard section, classical grand piano, and this is the smart area of the instruments. I can either record here like that. I could turn that off and that would give me the actual keys. I can either play in one section, or I need to go higher or lower depending on where I want to play. Also, I can go by octaves. I can change the scale, the key, how many keyboards actually do I want. So it allows you to do a lot of things. This run, if I turn it on and I go back to the whoops. So the run is where it actually starts running the note instead of just one single note. So I could do so you can do some runs on it. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to use this, and we are going to use a main riff that is actually played by a guitar by default, but we are going to play it with this grand piano. And this is the place where I'm going to tell you or show you what I mean when I said that the keyboard part in here gives me the most amount of versatility. I'm going to add another instrument, and since I said I'm going to record it with a guitar, most people would think that the logical step would be to play it on the guitar section, but that wouldn't allow me to put the riff, the recorded guitar riff, over to the piano section. Whereas if I go on piano and choose the guitar in the section of other, like so, then that gives me the possibility to go over the main or to the piano section with the riff. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. I'm going to set a decent volume just beyond the half mark, like so. And as you can see, we have a toggle here where you can choose between 4 pre-recorded riffs. What will that do is give you a certain riff that it will play, and all you need to do is change the key depending on the melody that you have come up with. The main riff for us at the moment that we are going to work with sounds like this. And so that's where we actually are going to change the part or the melody of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to record 8 bars of intro, then a transitional phase, and then we are going to the next 8 bars we are going to introduce another instrument into our mix. So first of all, I'm going to record the guitar part. Alright, so we have a nice 8-bar long recording. I'm going to go split and chop the end off because that's where I want my recording to end. Go delete. And so we have 2 bars of each key, like so. And I'm going to go over, put that to the piano, and that will give us this riff is played by the piano, like so. Now this 8 bar gives enough information to the listener to have an idea of what the main riff is going to be. So at the beginning of the 9th bar we are going to go until bar 13, or actually the end of bar 12 and beginning at the bar 13 we are going to introduce the 3rd instrument. So for the transitional phase I'm going to record 2 other 8, or actually another 1, 2, 3, 4 bars of music, and that's going to go like so. Okay, and I'm going to split it. Now I could actually manipulate the riff itself if I wanted to, and how I do that is basically if I go into settings, I could go up an octave, down an octave, or semitones. I could change the speed that the riff is actually played with, or I could totally reverse the whole thing, the riff itself, so it actually is played from the part. So what would that do? If I go settings, settings and reverse, it just reversed the tracks, so, or that part, or so what that does is it plays it from here this way and not from here to there. As you can see, I didn't join the 2 together. I could if I highlight the whole thing and go join, I could join the whole thing together, but for the sake of seeing where the intro is and where the transitional phase is, I'm not going to join them for now. And I can actually go edit, and as you can see the whole riff is given to me in a piano form with the actual length of the certain notes that the riff actually hits during the recording. So if I wanted to, I could move the notes up and down. I could actually shorten them or lengthen them how I want them. Now I can play it like so. And I could see which notes are hitting exactly at what beat. But we are not going to mess with that for now, but we are going to rather introduce the 2nd instrument, which is going to be a bass. And it's going to be a very simple, we're going to go here again. The versatility wise, we're going to go Liverpool bass, which is a little bit more muffled type bass. Muted is obviously dies away a lot quicker, and P bass is a more prominent, powerful type bass, and this is picked is a very metallic sounding. It has a really it's really metallic in the sense that you can, it sounds like a metal instrument. But we are going to go with Liverpool for now. Okay, so that's what we have to follow in the transitional phase, and this is going to go 2 bars as well. So what I've done is, so that I don't get distracted by the piano, I'm muting it, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to record this. Excuse me. Go back and actually record this. And then record. Oops. Don't want to edit, I want to split. And record. Okay, we are low battery. Alright, so we are going to record the second part. Not with the piano though, but with rather the bass. See, it's the composing process is a little bit slow because you have to get used to the software and you have to know how to use it, but once you do, it gets a little bit easier. And as you saw when I pressed the record button, even though the metronome is turned off, it still gives me a 1, 2, 3, 4 pre-count, so I know when to start the recording. So with the bass, now I can start mixing the two together, so one is a little bit louder than the other. And how I do that is basically by knowing which instrument is a little bit more stronger in terms of sound, and which is going to be louder or lower volume, and that's why I have to set the master volume just beyond the half mark, or to whatever point I can bear it with my ears and what sounds good to me. And then depending on, I can actually lower the volume up or down, or I can raise or lower the volume depending on that of the individual tracks. So this is what we got so far. Alright, so we have introduced the bass, a little bit of a low end to it to grab the listener's attention. Alright, and now comes, well, I guess you could say the first verse, although I don't use lead vocals in this. It's going to be an instrumental track at the moment, so the main part of the track starts now with another melody line, and this time I'm going to go with not 8 bars but rather 16 bars of track melody. So what we're going to do is from the beginning of 13 we're going to go till actually it's not 16, it's 8. I'm sorry, I cannot count. But from 18 or 13 to 17, bar 17 or the end of 16 is one key, and then from 17 to 21 is going to be the second change. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to add the guitar back in because I have deleted that, and we are going to actually see what melody works after. Alright, so we are going to go like this. And now we are going to introduce the third instrument, which I usually call a filler, but it's going to be a pad, and it's going to actually fill up the track so it's not that empty. And also we are going to change the bass melody here, or rather not the melody but the bass riff. Go to split, drop the end off like so. So alright, so the next thing is going to be a pad. So I'm going to go to the pad, and I'm going to go to warm synth pad, which by default sounds like so, but we're going to soften it and record that melody, or that part rather. Alright, so we are at the end of this recording, and we're going to actually move that up there, and this is going to actually fill up the track a little bit. So to see what we've got, oh, and I forgot to actually record the bass as well, so we're going to go there. Let's see what riff. Alright, so this is going to be the bass riff. And now we have to change this back to this bass, like so. Nice fat low end. So what we've got so far is this. As you can see, or hear rather, the pad just gives it a little bit more fullness. A little bit, it fills up the quote-unquote empty spaces in the track. Now if I want to manipulate the tracks even more, I could go into the settings, and as you can see I have track pan, which I usually keep in the center because that will give you the stereo, but I could go either to the left or the right, depending on if I want to do a 3D track in terms of left and right. I could go how much to the left when I hear that specific track, or how much to the right if using headphones, of course, or speakers, but I usually keep that in the middle, like so. Here I can raise the treble end of the track and the bass end a little bit. I'm going to actually do that with the pad because I want that to be more prominent. And see what do I get out of that. Add a little bit of compression. And play with the bass just a bit. Okay, let's see what we got now. And actually, now that I hear that, I'm going to split these and this in half and copy this over into there, and what that will result in is it going to hit that note twice. Yep, we made the pad a little bit more filling, a little bit more prominent. And to make it a little bit more full, I would say introduce the drums here. But just enough so that it's not overpowering. So I'm going to go to this loop up here, and this is where I get to the loop section. Here I have all types of loops. Actually, no. Here I have all types of loops grouped by alphabetical order, and as you can see, on the right side here you can see how long that loop is. There's 2 bars, 1 bar, 8 bar, 4 bar. So, but what I like to do is you can search by either by Apple loops, which is in the whole loop section, or you can search the loops by instruments. So I'm going to go all drums, since that's the type of loop I want. And here you can see blue and yellow loops. Now, the blue ones are the loops that are made by Apple, so they loop over and over again. The yellow ones are made by, as you can see, we have names to them. So Enders, we have let's say we have Darcy, Des, I don't know what type of name that is, Gavin, and who these are basically loops that are made by using the drummer function, or this drum function rather than the other one, because this allows you to work with virtual drummers. And what this means, as you can see, you have really all types of settings that you can put in or take out feels it's really nice actually. And you can work with lots of drummers. On the left side here you have the type of music that you want. So you want acoustic music, electronic, or you want percussionists. And each group has a few drummers, and each drummer has a certain description that tells you what type of beats do they play. So for example, Kyle, influenced by modern rock but comfortable with most genres, Kyle plays straightforward rock beats on a natural, versatile kit. So that's a pretty natural drummer, pop rock style, by the way. We have Darcy, who we are going to use, tasteful, restrained, and dedicated to serving the song. Darcy plays simple, tasteful pop beats on a natural sounding kit. And we have some other ones. If we want to get a little bit more daring, we can go to electronic, and then we can see the electronic genres like trap, boom bap, dubstep, tech house, EDM, stuff like that. Percussion, same thing. So Latin type percussion, pop percussion. Songwriter is works with the songwriter. With the songwriter type group, which is not overpowered. They are really versatile and simple type beats, in my personal opinion. So those are what the certain color coordination of the loops are. So we are going to go down to Darcy, and we are going to and this is going to be an 8-bar intro riff, or intro beat rather, that we are going to put in here. As you can see, if I go to cut, trim, that shows me the one phrase of the loop. And here is where I'm going to tell you what phrases are. Now, bars, I'm sure you're familiar with them. Beats as well. Phrases is really where the beat or the recording changes. So as you can see in the pad section, we have two phrases because we have 4 bars of one and 4 bars of two, or 4 bars of another one, and that actually is one phrase of music. We have in terms of recording now, so that's actually the loop's end, where it says phrases can actually also mean where the whole track changes. So in terms of the intro, we have 8 bars of one phrase, and then 4 bars, and that's the second phrase where actually the bass enters. So that would be from bar 1 to bar 8, or rather the end of bar 8. That would be one phrase of the track, and from bar 9 to the end of bar 12 would be the second phrase of the track, and then phase 2, or phrase rather, not phase, phrase 2 is from 13 till 21. So it's where basically the whole I'm not going to edit this, is basically where the track changes and the sounds are added or subtracted from or into the track. Now we have to make sure that the drums are prominent enough but not overpowering, and so how we are doing that is we're going into the settings part, and we can raise the bass just a bit. And what will that do is basically give more power to the bass drums and the bass end of the drum beat, and raise the treble just a bit. Obviously it has a little bit of compression, which we can play with. And the third thing we can play with, or the fourth rather, because we have bass treble compression, we could add a little bit of echo to it, just to make it a little bit, or reverb, not echo but reverb, just to make it a little bit more filling. So what that does is, I'm going to show you without reverb. Okay, and now we're going to play with the volume. Let's see what we've got so far. So we've got a piano, a bass, a pad, and a drum. The whole track sounds like this. Now at the end of that drum beat you can hear a fill. And what that will do is transition us into some other loops. Like for example the verse, where from the side stick on the rim of the snare drum, so that sound, it will change the beat up a little bit. The basic of the beat are going to be the same, excuse me, but it will change a little bit up so it's more interesting for the listener. But basically this is how I build the foundation of the track. So I have 4 instruments that make up the foundation in this case. As you can see, I am introducing them gradually, meaning that it's not going to be overwhelming for the listener, and that will give the listener a little bit more pleasurable listening experience. Basically this is how I make the foundation of the track, and then from this on I just need to vary the foundation a little bit in terms of drum beats, melody, riffs, and sort of mess with the filler sounds, which I'm going to show you in future side project episodes. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it. And really, I hope that you will be back for the next side project episodes. Goodbye for now. D2M, the show of the hour. Thank you to all of you who joined us on our mission today. Adios amigos. See you on our next mission.